The light fades not with haste, but with a long, trembling sigh, as if the sky itself is reluctant to surrender. Clouds glow amber, then soften to bruise violet. The horizon, endless and wide, stretches like an old hymn too big for one voice to sing. The wind carries with it the smell of pine resin, of dust, of the ghost of rain that fell 3 days ago. And there it stands, the cabin, a lone body of wood and shadow against the dying sun. The logs are scarred by storms, nailed together with the stubbornness of a man who once believed he could tame the land. The roof sags, but does not fall. The door, crooked, still stands guard. The windows, dark at first glance, hold a faint glow. It is not a house. It is an inheritance, and it waits. He comes near at the slow rhythm of hoofbeats, each step pressing into the earth as though testing whether it will hold him. Elias, that was his name, though the land did not know it, and the cabin did not care. His shadow stretches long behind him, stitched to the soil like an old scar. He had not meant to return to this place. He had not even meant to inherit. A letter, written in a hand too formal, had reached him months ago. The cabin is yours now. Your uncle is gone. Come claim what is left, or will be left to rot. He came not for wealth, for there was none, nor for memories, for they were few and bitter. He came because a man adrift clings to anything that still bears his name. The horse shifts under him as the cabin draws closer. Elias expects silence, emptiness. But as he nears, the faintest coil of smoke rises from the crooked chimney, curling into the bruised sky like a secret unburied. His jaw tightens. Someone is there. He dismounts slowly, boots striking the ground with the heaviness of weariness. The saddle creaks. The horse lowers its head to the earth, finding comfort where Elias cannot. For a moment he lingers outside, hand resting on the rough wood of the door. It feels alive still, like bark under weathered skin. He remembers his uncle's hand, stern, heavy, a hand that once slapped the table more often than it embraced. This wood carries that same hardness. And then he hears it. Laughter. Not one voice, but several. Light unguarded, like water spilling over stones. It startles him more than a gunshot would. He is a man accustomed to silence, to the hollow sound of his own thoughts. Laughter feels foreign. Laughter feels dangerous. He pushes the door. The cabin breathes. It should have been dust and emptiness, but instead it is warm, lit by lamplight that trembles on the walls. Shadows flicker, and there they are, 5 women. 5, each distinct as stars, yet bound together by something unseen. Their eyes lift to him, one after another, and for a heartbeat the room stills. The first sits near the hearth, dark hair braided, hands steady with the needle and cloth she holds. Her gaze is sharp, protective. The second leans against the table, arms folded, a half-smile curving her lips as though she has been waiting for him. The third, older perhaps, moves with a gentleness like water poured carefully into a glass. She stirs the pot simmering on the stove, yet her eyes hold depths not easily crossed. The fourth, wild-haired, carries laughter still on her lips. She is barefoot, her steps soft against the wood, and yet there is a defiance in the way she stands, as if the world has tried to cage her and failed. The fifth, youngest, perches by the window, eyes wide with the kind of wonder that belongs more to dreams than to days lived. She watches him as though he were both danger and miracle. 5. They do not speak at first. Neither does he. The silence hums like a taut string. And then, from the one by the table, the words fall, half jest, half warning. You can handle all 5 of us? The others laugh, some softly, some with the brittle edge of challenge. Elias does not answer. He stands with dust still clinging to his coat, with the weight of miles heavy on his shoulders. He does not know if this is jest, if this is test, or if the words mean something more. The cabin waits. The night grows around them. He sets down his saddlebag, slow, deliberate, as though placing himself among them without yet belonging. They watch, but they do not ask who he is. Perhaps they already know. The land whispers secrets faster than letters ever could. It is over stew and bread that the first words of welcome slip through, unpolished, cautious. They tell him, in pieces, how they came to be here. Not in detail, not yet, but enough to know they have claimed this place as haven. Elias eats little. His hunger is not for food, but for understanding. He feels the weight of his uncle's ghost pressing heavy. This was not part of the inheritance. He expected wood, stone, silence. Instead, he finds lives already rooted. When the meal is done, when the lamplight dims, each woman retreats to her own corner of the cabin. Their presence lingers in the air, like the smoke of a fire long after it has burned low. Elias lies awake on the cot his uncle once called his own. The wood creaks beneath him, remembering another body. He stares at the ceiling, hearing the quiet breath of those who now share this space. And in the hush before sleep, he thinks of the question again. You can handle all 5 of us? It was asked in jest, perhaps, but beneath it lay another meaning, a challenge, a warning, a plea. He does not yet know if he can. The cabin waits for his answer. The narrator's voice drifts into the night. Inheritance is not always land, nor walls, nor wood nailed together by hands that once thought themselves eternal. Sometimes inheritance is the weight of other hearts, the unasked-for burden of belonging. And sometimes is the beginning of a story one never thought he would live. The prairie sleeps. The cabin breathes. And within it, 6 souls now share the same fire. The night is long. The tale has only begun. The morning comes not with thunder, nor with glory, but with quiet persistence. The first light spills across the hills, pale and golden, washing the cabin in a gentleness that does not match the land's harsh reputation. The prairie, so endless in the dark, softens under dawn. A meadowlark calls from a fence post. Somewhere far, a stream hums its silver hymn. Elias wakes to these sounds, but also to others, the voices of the women already moving about. The scrape of wood against wood. The hiss of water meeting hot iron. The rhythm of footsteps. This is no empty place. The cabin, once imagined as a hollow shell for him alone, breathes with life already in motion. He steps from his cot, pulling on his boots with the heaviness of a man unsure whether he has come to claim or to intrude. At the hearth, the woman with the dark braid, Anna, her name revealed quietly over last night's bread, tends to the fire. Sparks dance against her steady hands. She does not look at him, but he feels her awareness, sharp as a hawk's. The barefoot one, Claire, hums as she carries a pail of water from outside, her laughter spilling lightly even without cause. She nods at him, not in greeting, but in acknowledgement. You are here. You exist. We will see what you make of it. The older one, Marin, stirs porridge with a wooden spoon, her every movement measured, as though she has been mother long before she ever was allowed to be child. She offers him a bowl without words, her kindness practical, unadorned. By the window sits Ruth, the dreamer, pen scratching across paper. She does not glance up, yet Elias senses she watches everything. Her letters, he would later learn, are written to a man who will never return to read them. And then there is the youngest, Lila, a spark in human form. She greets him with a grin too wide for the morning, her eyes too bright, her words too quick. She asks questions without waiting for answers. Where do you ride from? You look like you've seen 100 miles of dust. Do you think the sky here is wider than in the cities? Elias eats in silence. The porridge is plain, but it warms him more than he expects. He listens, though their voices weave around him as though he were not yet a part of the cloth. Days fall into a rhythm he does not choose, yet cannot resist. The women move like parts of song, distinct notes, yet joined. Elias, unused to harmony, stumbles at first. He splits wood, patches the fence, draws water when asked. His hands remember the labor of survival, though his heart resists the tether of belonging. At night, he hears their stories not through confessions, but through fragments, drifting like embers in the air. Anna's hands are scarred, the mark of rope once tied too tight. She does not say why she fled, but her silence is sharp, a blade honed against the memory of cruelty. Claire laughs the loudest, but one evening Elias notices how she falls quiet when thunder rumbles, her body rigid, eyes distant. He wonders what storm broke her once and left her chasing joy as shield. Marin tells her tale most openly. She had sons once, small as saplings, but the land took them. She speaks not of grief, but of soil, of planting, of how seeds must be tended even when one doubts the harvest. Ruth writes letters long into the night. Elias glimpses one when the lamplight flickers across her page. To my dearest, who has not walked back through that door. She writes still, though her inked words will never find the man they are meant for. And Lila, wild Lila, never speaks of sorrow. Yet Elias sees it when her laughter falters, when she stares at the horizon too long, as though expecting someone who never arrives. There are 5 stories woven together by refuge. 5 scars softened by this cabin's walls. Elias feels their lives pressing against him like water rising around a stone. He does not know if he will sink or if he will learn to float. One evening, as the sun dies in streaks of blood and gold, the tension between them sharpens. Elias sits by the table, tracing the grain of the wood. He speaks at last. I could sell this place. The words drop like stones into water, breaking the fragile peace. Anna looks up first, eyes blazing. You could, she says, but you'd have to step through us to do it. Claire's laughter cuts sharp. Do you think walls belong to you just because a letter says so? Marin sets her spoon down, steady but firm. This place is not yours alone. It carried us when no one else would. Ruth does not speak. She only writes faster, as though capturing this moment to send to someone who cannot answer. Lila's voice trembles, though she tries to hide it. If you sell it, where do we go? Back to what broke us. Elias feels their fire, their fear, their claim. He had thought himself master of wood and soil, but here he finds himself guest in a home already made. He says nothing more. The cabin fills with silence thick as tar. That night he walks outside, restless, needing distance. The prairie stretches endless, the stars cruel in their indifference. He breathes the cold air until it burns his lungs. And then, footsteps, soft, measured. Anna joins him, standing with arms folded, her braid catching starlight. You don't want to be here, she says. I can see it in the way you hold yourself. Elias does not deny it. He stares at the horizon, words heavy in his chest. I thought this place would be empty. I thought I'd find silence, not this. She studies him for a long while. Then, softer, silence could be the cruelest thing of all. Her words strike him deeper than he expects. For a moment he sees her not as guard, not as rival, but as a soul who knows the weight of loneliness too well. They stand together without speaking further. The night hums around them. Somewhere a coyote calls. Somewhere something shifts in his chest. Not love, not yet, but recognition. Days weave into weeks. The cabin grows less foreign. Elias learns the rhythm of their lives. How Ruth lights the lamps with care. How Marin prays over seeds before planting. How Claire sings off-key while scrubbing clothes. How Lila dances barefoot in the grass when no one watches. How Anna's eyes soften when she thinks no one sees. He does not yet call this place home. He tells himself he will leave. But when his horse waits saddled, he finds excuses. A fence to mend, a roof to patch, a laugh to answer. The prairie, once vast and empty, now feels full. The narrator's voice drifts like smoke. Sometimes belonging does not come with thunder, nor with vows. It arrives like dawn, soft and unnoticed until it fills the whole sky. And sometimes 2 wounded souls recognize each other in silence before a single word of love is ever spoken. The cabin holds them all. The cabin waits, and the story deepens. Long before thunder speaks, the prairie feels the weight of it. Clouds thick as bruises, wind restless as a child before tears. The grass bends, the horses shift, the air tastes of iron. Even the cabin seems to lean into itself, bracing for what is to come. Inside, the mood mirrors the weather. The women move about their tasks, but their voices are hushed, their glances sharp. Elias feels the air between them, heavy, charged, waiting to break. The storm is not only in the sky. It is already here, pressing against the walls of their fragile peace. That evening, While the first drops rattle against the roof, Elias finds Ruth alone by the window. She holds one of her letters, ink still wet, eyes far away. To him, she whispers, though no one else hears. Always to him, but he has been gone so long. Her voice breaks. She presses the paper to her chest, as if it were his hand, not words. Elias, awkward in the presence of such naked sorrow, asks softly, "Who was he?" Ruth startles, then meets his gaze. "A man who promised to return," she says. But promises are lighter than dust when the wind comes. She looks away again, and Elias feels the storm move closer, outside and in. When night deepens and thunder shakes the floorboards, truth comes not by choice but by force. It is Anna who speaks first, her voice steady as flint. "You should know, Elias, this cabin does not come clean." The others fall silent. Even a fire seems to dim. Anna continues, "Your uncle, he left debts behind. Not the kind written on paper. The kind written in blood." Elias stiffens. He remembers the man, stern, greedy, always reaching for more. But he did not know how far those hands stretched. "Debts," he repeats, though he already understands. "Bandits," says Claire, bitterness sharp in her voice. "Men who think they own what they touch. Men who come back to collect." Marin stirs the embers with a poker, her face lined with quiet resignation. They have not come yet, but they will. They always do. Ruth clutches her letter tighter, as if to shield it from the truth. And Lila, bright, restless Lila, whispers, "We didn't tell you because we feared you'd run." Elias feels anger rise in him like fire. "So you kept me blind. You let me believe this place was only mine." Anna's gaze does not waver. "It was never only yours." The words strike harder than thunder. The storm outside rages. Rain lashes against the windows. Wind claws at the roof. But the greater storm churns within Elias. He paces fist tight, voice low with fury. "All this time, I thought I had a choice. To stay, to leave. But you've trapped me in another man's mess." Claire snaps back. "You think you're the only one trapped? We've lived with this shadow longer than you've been here." Marin speaks calm, though her voice trembles. "We stayed because this cabin gave us breath when the world tried to steal it. But breath means little when the noose waits." Ruth's eyes glisten. "He will leave, like they all do." And Lila's laughter breaks, a brittle sound. "Maybe he should. Maybe we don't need anyone to save us." Elias stops, chest heaving. For the first time since arriving, he feels like a stranger again. Unwelcome, untrusted, bound by chains not of his choosing. He says nothing more. He takes his coat, steps out into the storm, and lets the rain drench him until he feels numb. The prairie is a vast silence, even under thunder. Elias walks, each step sinking into mud. The land feels endless, merciless, as if daring him to leave. And for a moment, he wants to mount his horse and ride until the cabin is a forgotten shadow. He wants freedom more than belonging, silence more than laughter, solitude more than responsibility. But then he stops. Through the sheets of rain, he sees the cabin, standing against the storm. Light flickers in its windows, faint but steady. Inside are 5 lives, scarred, yes, but breathing, waiting, hoping. He realizes then, leaving would not free him. It would only make him the very thing he has always despised, a man who runs, a man who turns away from others the way his uncle once did. The storm batters him, but another storm stirs within, softer yet stronger. A pull, not of duty, not of debt, but of something deeper, belonging. When he returns, soaked and weary, the women watch him with wary eyes. No one speaks. The storm still roars outside, but inside, a fragile silence holds. Elias sets his coat down, his voice rough but steady. "I will not run." The words hang in the air like lightning. Anna exhales slowly, as though she has been holding her breath for years. Marin's hands tremble as she grips the poker. Claire looks away, her smile broken but softening. Ruth closes her letter, sets it gently on the table. And Lila, youngest, brightest, lets out a laugh, this time not brittle but alive. "I knew it," she says. "I knew you weren't just another man passing through." Elias does not answer, but his choice, unspoken, roots itself deeper than any vow. That night, when the storm eases and the fire burns low, he finds Anna outside, standing under the dripping eaves. She looks at him, eyes weary yet clear. "You could still leave tomorrow." "I could," he admits, "but I won't." She studies him, searching his face for cracks. "And why not?" "Because," he says, "this place isn't just mine. It's ours." For the first time, her guard softens. Not much, just enough for him to glimpse the woman beneath the armor. A woman who has fought too long to believe in gentleness, yet longs for it still. They stand in silence. The night smells of wet earth, of pine of beginnings. The narrator's voice drifts softly, like embers floating into dark. Sometimes the heart blooms not with thunder, but with rain. Not in the clash of passion, but in the quiet choice to stay. And sometimes love begins not with a kiss, but with the refusal to walk away. The storm passes. The prairie breathes again. The cabin waits, holding them all. The days after the storm are quieter, but the quiet carries weight. Elias feels it in the way Anna scans the horizon when she draws water. He hears it in the sudden hush of Claire's laughter when hoofbeats echo faint on the far hills. He sees it in Marin's hands, steady but tense as she kneads bread harder than the dough deserves. Ruth writes less, as though words cannot shield against what waits. And Lila, even in her brightness, lingers closer to the cabin's door. They all know what is coming. The debts of the dead do not die with them. They come riding, sooner or later. It happens on a dusk painted in copper and ash. The sun bleeds into the prairie. The air stills. Then, dust rises on the horizon. Not from storm, but from men. 5 riders. 6. Maybe more. Shadows cut sharp against the sinking light. The women gather at the window, silent, each breath sharp as broken glass. Elias steps outside, the wood of the porch groaning under his boots. His hands are empty, yet his stance carries the weight of a choice already made. The riders approach. Faces hard, eyes hungry. They dismount with the arrogance of men who believe the land owes them its marrow. One, their leader, tall with a scar like lightning across his cheek, steps forward. His voice is rough stone. "This cabin was never yours. Your uncle owed, and you carry his debt." Elias does not flinch. His voice is low, steady. "My uncle is gone. What he owed, he took with him." The man smirks. "Then you'll pay in kind. Either the cabin, or blood." The prairie holds its breath. From behind Elias, Anna steps forward. Her voice cuts like steel. "This cabin is ours, not yours to claim." Claire follows, her laughter sharp and dangerous. "You'll find no easy spoils here." Marin's hand tightens on the doorframe, silent but unyielding. Ruth lifts her chin, eyes bright with unshed tears, but her silence is defiance. Lila clings to no fear at all, only stands Elias's side, young but fierce. The bandits laugh, but unease ripples beneath their cruelty. They expected fear. They find fire instead. What happens next is less a fight of fists than of wills. Elias stands with the women, their voices rising not in battle cries, but in a refusal to bend. The leader circles spitting threats, but Elias does not waver. He speaks not only for himself, but for them. "This cabin is not what you can take. It is blood, breath, belonging. You'll find no surrender here." The words strike deeper than weapons. For bullies thrive on weakness, and here they find none. Still, violence stirs. One of the men kicks at the porch, splintering wood. Another hurls a torch, flames licking at the wall. The cabin shudders, its breath filling with smoke. For a heartbeat, fear seizes them all. But Elias moves. He seizes the torch, hurls it back into the dirt, stamping fire beneath his heel. He shouts not in rage, but in defiance. "You'll not take this home." The women rally. Anna grips a rifle hidden above the hearth. Claire throws water against smoldering wood. Marin steadies the younger two, her calm unshaken even as danger claws close. And together they hold. The riders, faced with a wall of unbreakable will, falter. Their threats unravel into unease. One by one, they mount their horses again, spitting curses into the dust. The leader lingers last, eyes burning, but even he sees what is written here. This place is no longer prey. They ride off into dusk, shadows swallowed by horizon. The cabin breathes again. Inside, smoke still curls from scorched wood. The fire crackles low, the air heavy with what might have been. Yet within that heaviness blooms something else. Relief, fierce and trembling. Claire sinks into a chair, laughter bubbling through her exhaustion. Marin clasps her hands, lips moving in prayer not of fear, but gratitude. Ruth places her unfinished letter into the flames, watching ink and paper curl into ash. Lila, bright as ever, dances in small circles, triumphant. And Anna, quiet Anna, sets the rifle down. Her eyes meet Elias's, not sharp, not guarded, but softened by something almost tender. "You stayed," she says simply. Elias answers, voice low, steady. "I will always stay." Later, when the night deepens and the danger feels like memory, they gather by the fire. The cabin glows warm despite its scars. Outside, the prairie lies still, stars scattered like silver seeds. Elias sits among them. No longer stranger, no longer guest. The silence is easy now, filled not with distance, but with belonging. He looks at them, each face lit by firelight. Anna, steadfast. Claire, wild. Marin, gentle. Ruth, dreaming. Lila, bright. 5 women, 5 worlds, all bound to him now, not by inheritance, but by choice. He smiles, faint but certain. Yes, he whispers, "I can handle all 5 of you." The words are not jest. They are vow. And for the first time, he feels them smile, not only in return, but in trust. The narrator's voice softens, as though leaning close, speaking only to the listener. Inheritance is not always land, nor debt, nor the shadow of those who came before. Sometimes inheritance is the chance to choose, to build a family not of blood, but of souls who see and keep each other. The cabin still stands, weathered but alive. Its walls carry laughter, sorrow, the breath of those who will not be broken. And out there, on some night not unlike this one, Elias and the 5 women sit by their fire, no longer asking questions, but living their answer. So if you've walked with me to the end of this tale, remember, belonging is not given. It is chosen. It is fought for. It is kept. And now, friend, I must ask you, from where do you watch this story? From what corner of the wide world do you listen, with your own fire glowing beside you? The prairie waits for your answer. The story rests.